live from the parking lot of Ace Hardware on I Street in Sacramento, California. Let's see if I can turn this around and show you this parking lot. There it is, capital Ace, okay, and there is the Ace Hardware. It's a pleasant thing. Constance is going to build some bookcases, and she's going to have to do the sawing. We have no power tools or anything else, so she's hoping to get some guidance from an adult of some kind, because she certainly doesn't get that kind of guidance from me. Today is, okay, let me just do this right there. Today is the National Day of Prayer. And so I've got a couple things to share with you today. And as you might guess, my view of prayer might not have the same definition, I guess, or interpretation or meaning as one would usually think. I was, for several years, I was the chaplain of my Masonic Lodge, Long Beach Lodge 327, and I enjoyed it very much, especially because even though praying is a very important factor in Masonic ceremonies, and it is a generic, non-sectarian, non-denominational generic prayer that would offend no one. I mean, we don't pray to Jesus. We don't. The prayers are so generic as to hopefully not offend anybody, and at the same time activating the pure magical power that prayer activates. Okay. I've got a couple examples of cool prayers, Dalai Lama and St. Francis and things like that. But first I would like to read something that I wrote in chapter 6 of Enochian Vision Magic. And because Dee and Kelly prayed an awful lot. And if you're a practitioner of Solomonic magic, the prayer is a component part of every Goetic evocation. So you gotta come face to face with this idea of prayer. And if only for the reason that when you stop to pray, hopefully you're not killing someone in those few seconds that you're praying. So right away, it has a good and beneficial reason to be. Anyway, here's what I say. Let us pray. No man should ever undertake any great or important undertaking without first invoking the blessing of God. Now that's right from the Master's admonition of California Free and Accepted Masons. And here's something Crowley said. The whole secret may be summarized in these 4 words. Inflame thyself in praying. One of the most fundamental and most important magical tools Dee used throughout his life was prayer. We're talking about John Dee here. So before we begin to examine magic rings and protective breastplates and holy tables and other such wizardly items, we need to first get something straight about prayer. It's okay to pray. Even if you think you don't believe in the same God that Dee and Kelly believed in, it's okay to pray. I realize that for many 21st century magicians, the word prayer carries with it unpleasant memories of childhood church and Sunday school traumas, and bedtime fears that, quote, if I die before I wake, somebody was going to take my soul to God knows where. In magic, prayer has nothing to do with religion. It does, however, have everything to do with the magician's grasp of the facts of life in the magical world in which he or she intends to operate. Part of that reality is the mystical fact that existence itself is an expression of consciousness, and there are levels of consciousness higher and lower than the one we're currently attuned to. By the simple act of uttering a prayer, our apparently limited consciousness reaches out and makes contact with a higher level of consciousness. And by doing so, we insert ourselves into the divine circuitry of the cosmos. As we do, part of us, a part that we might not be aware of, but a part of us awakes. It wakes up, as it were, and recognizes our rightful place in this circuitry. In my book, The Key to Solomon's Key, I illustrate this concept using the legend of King Solomon as my example. In the excerpt below, I discuss prayer in the context of spirit evocation, but the same thoughts hold true to all forms of magic, including Enochian. Indeed, it holds true for all of your daily activities, because there is nothing that you do or perceive or take part in that is not a magical act. And you're either performing it efficiently, effectively, properly, or you're not, but it's still a magical act. This is the quote from that book. The third chapter of the Book of Kings tells us that at the beginning of his reign, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a vision by night and said, "Ask that which I should give you, you. Or if it was Solomon. If I know Solomon, the voice might not have sounded like that. Is a God to live in a dog? I think God's voice talking to Solomon probably in the night vision probably sounded like, "Ask what I should give you." Okay. Solomon answered, "Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, to discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this thy so great a people?" Wow. And that pleased the Lord, because Solomon had asked this thing. And the Lord said to Solomon, "Because you have asked this thing, and have not asked for yourself riches, neither have you asked for the lives of your enemies, nor have you asked for yourself a long life, but have asked for yourself wisdom to discern judgment. Therefore I have done according to your words. Lo, I have given you a wise and understanding heart, so that there has been none like you before you, neither shall there arise after you like you. Unquote. Before taking on the task of ruling his people and building the temple, Solomon doesn't begin by consulting with his inferiors, his ministers, his generals, his architects, his building contractors, or labor leaders, or caterers. He doesn't immediately enmesh himself in the energy-draining details of micromanaging such a huge and important project. Instead, he turns his attention upward to the highest level of the hierarchical scales of consciousness. He makes direct contact with deity, and instead of behaving like a helpless youngster asking a parent for pocket money, he boldly makes himself available to serve as a conduit through which the deity's infinite wisdom and understanding can pass. This profoundly mature and uncomplicated request is instantly granted, as if deity had no choice but to acquiesce. A unique spiritual hierarchy is created, with Solomon enthroned midway between heaven and hell, poised to work in cosmic harmony with the divine consciousness above him, poised to compel the infernal spirits to do the same. This is the primary secret of Solomonic magic. As long as the magician remains plugged in to that which is above, he or she is simultaneously plugged in too, and must begin to master that which is below. These prayers, both in English and Latin, fill page after page of his diaries and magical records. I confess I'm neither inclined nor devotionally equipped to follow his exhausting example. I do, however, recognize the efficacy of prayer as an indispensable preliminary to magical operations. And while I do not personally believe that the biblical Solomon ever existed in empirical history, as a magical artist, I embrace his myth and happily adopt him as a patron saint of magic. How appropriate, then, that the first magical tool Dee and Kelly would receive from their angelic contacts was the Ring of Solomon, and that before putting on that ring, the magician must first pray. Now, early in their magical operations, Dee and Kelly didn't have the Holy Table. They didn't have the Enochian tablets that we know of or anything else. They were contacting angelic beings directly and getting the information about building the Holy Table and the Laman and the Sigillum and the elemental tablets. But to get to the angels, to get that information that channeled through the details of these other magical systems, which we use as systems, okay, they had to do the dirty work, the groundwork of contacting the angels directly to get the blueprint and directions of the machinery. And to do that, they had to raise their consciousness to the level where talking to angels didn't seem like it was crazy shit. They had to get to a place where it was perfectly natural to talk to angels. And to do that, they prayed and prayed. They prayed themselves into altered states of consciousness. Later on, when they had the system, they could use the Enochian calls to elevate their consciousness to those specific levels. But until then, they had to really get down and dirty and pray for sometimes hours in painful positions to get themselves high enough to talk to the angels themselves. Let's see if I'm going to read any more from here. Let's see. They were talking to the angel. Let's see, who is it? Michael. In order to, Michael said, okay, to set up to do this magic, you need to build sort of the equivalent of a miniature working model of the Temple of Solomon, your magical temple. Okay, and that's sort of accomplished with the Holy Table. And the Holy Table, they're getting ready to get the instructions. And so they start right off by saying, but, you know, if just to talk with us properly and to start working this magic, you got to have the magic ring we gave to Solomon. Okay. Sorry, you just got to. Okay. So that was one of the first visions. Let's see, here with, let's see, the strength of God is unspeakable. Praise be God forever and ever. Then Uriel did make courtesy to Michael. Michael, after this sort must thy ring be. Note it. He then rose or disappeared out of the chair, and by came again and said as follows. This is all quoting D. Michael said, I will reveal thee this ring, which was never revealed since the death of Solomon, with whom I was present. I was present with him in strength and mercy. Lo, this is it. This is it. Wherewith all miracles and divine works and wonders were wrought by Solomon. This is it, which I have revealed unto thee. This is it, which philosophy dreameth of. This is it, which the angels scarce know. This is it, and blessed be his name. Yea, his name be blessed forever. Then he laid the ring down upon the table and said, it showed to be a ring of gold, and then he describes it. Okay. Here's the pattern of the ring. Okay, I just want to show. This is not an Enochian. This is a thing on prayer. This is me talking now. Before I practice any aspect of Enochian magic, I recite two short prayers. The first is a prayer John Dee used regularly throughout his years of magical workings. I chose it because it was the shortest goddamn prayer in his whole arsenal. Okay. But it's perfect. It's perfect for Enochian magic. It's perfect for any kind of magical ceremony or anything that you willfully do of a magical nature. Teach me O Creator of all things, to have correct knowledge and understanding. For your wisdom is all that I desire. Speak your word in my ear, O Creator of all things, and set your wisdom in my heart. Now that's Dee's prayer. And it encapsulates what Solomon asked for when he was to begin his legendary reign and his legendary construction of the Temple of Solomon. Teach me, O Creator of all things, to have correct knowledge and understanding, for your wisdom is all that I desire. Speak your word in my ear, O Creator of all things, and set your wisdom in my heart. And the second prayer that I use, I fashioned from the words of the Archangel Michael, or Michael, when he spoke to Dee and Kelly during the March 14th, 1582 action. Okay, that's the Behold the Ring. This is it. This is it, wherewith all miracles and divine works and wonders are wrought by Solomon. Okay. Okay. On this, the National Day of Prayer, I want to share with you just a couple things, and then I'm going to leave the parking lot after Constance comes back with her new saw. When you pray, if you can't think of anything to pray about, why don't you do this? Why don't you pretend just for a moment that you are the Bodhisattva and the liberation of all sentient beings is your job? And you're going to come back and come back and come back and come back until you get them all on board. Now that's sort of the position that the Dalai Lama finds himself in. And the Dalai Lama has a daily prayer. And I'm not saying you need to view this as anything other than just being formulaic. But what more profound definition for invocation could there be than if you put yourself in the position of God and God's voice to the universe? That's true invocation. Invocation isn't just saying, "Morning, God, I'm going to do some magic. You help me out, okay?" It's not that at all. The deity has to be indwelling you. You have to be the vehicle, the instrument of the divine will. It's not your magic, it's the divine. It's the magic of the big what it is. So here's His Holiness the Dalai Lama's daily prayer. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. By virtue of my merits. Now you might think, oh, this is just so rainbow fuzzy bunny. Oh, may there be peace on earth, world peace. Act like you can give it. Act like it's yours to give. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Now that doesn't have to be just the Dalai Lama's prayer. We could all pray that. Because in a sense, that's who we are, and that's our job. I'm just going to close with two prayers. Two one-sentence prayers. This one is a Jewish prayer. They who make peace in their high places, may they bring peace upon us and upon all Israel. And the other prayer, in the name of Allah, the beneficent and merciful, praise be to the Lord of the universe, who has created us and made us into tribes and nations, that we may know each other, not that we may despise each other. And that's my parking lot contribution to the National Day of Prayer. And I hope to see you tomorrow. Until then, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.